Some of us remember when the future didn't feel digital. It sounded mechanical, the rhythm of a typewriter, then the quiet shift to a word processor. The word processor, a machine with a small screen attached, hinting at something bigger to come. For some, that was the first step. For others, the computer was the starting point. And then it happened. The screen expanded, the computer arrived, and with it, something we didn't fully understand yet, but knew we wanted. The internet. You remember that sound, that dial-up tone, static, beeps, distortion, like you were calling into another dimension just to access information. And suddenly you were talking to people across the world on AOL Instant Messenger, debating strangers, exploring pixelated images that barely loaded, then building your identity on MySpace, discovering music, curating who you were becoming online. And just as quickly the environment shifted again, Facebook entered. And everything changed. Now your teachers were watching. Your coworkers were connected. The internet stopped being anonymous and started becoming accountable. And what it felt like a moment, we went from dial-up curiosity to a force that reshaped industries, eliminated roles, and redefined how we work, communicate, and exist. It didn't happen all at once. It happened one interaction at a time, one photo, one message, one video, one connection. And over time, that changed everything. But now, the pace of change is moving faster than the evolution that got us here. So fast that for the first time in history, 5 different generations have all experienced the internet, but not the same internet, not even close. Same technology, completely different realities. So the question isn't just what changed, it's how it changed.
Welcome to MarComTech-niques podcast, a podcast about marketing communications and technology. We help shape future conversations by exploring ideas that shape mindset, management styles, business journeys that influence industries through thought leadership. I'm your host, Jacqueline Cremona.
Each generation didn't just adopt the internet, they defined it differently. Baby boomers saw it as a tool, functional and controlled. Generation X adopted it. Millennials made it social. Identity became visible. Generation Z entered an algorithm-driven environment where what you see shapes what you think. And Generation Alpha, they're entering in an environment where systems respond before they were even prompted. Same technology, different realities. But this is where the tension begins. One generation trusts institutions, another trusts networks, another trusts algorithms, and the next may trust outputs without questioning inputs. 5 generations, 5 models of trust, and when those models collide, perception fragments. That fragmentation leads to something most organizations aren't prepared for, the trust gap. The trust gap isn't about technology moving too fast. It's about understanding moving too slow. It's the distance between what systems do and what people believe they do. And right now, the distance is growing. This didn't start with trust. It started with infrastructure. In the last episode, we talked about the AI race and how it isn't really about models or software. It's about what sits underneath. AI isn't just software, it's chips, it's servers, data centers, energy, the systems beneath everything. And as those systems scale, so does our dependence on them. Dependence on system, most people never see. So while companies race to build smarter AI, they're also competing for control over the environments those systems rely on. And the moment systems become invisible but essential, people stop questioning how they work, but they still feel the impact. When something goes wrong, the gap between dependence and understanding is where trust starts to break. We've scaled technology without scaling trust. Systems are getting smarter, people are getting more uncertain. This isn't isolated. In healthcare, systems influence outcomes. In finance, decisions happen in real time. In real estate, algorithms shape value. In entertainment, visibility is control. In technology, systems now shape other systems. Different industries, same pattern. Decisions moving from people to systems. And the more those systems operate, the less visible they become until something breaks. And when it does, the question isn't just what failed, it's who understands it well enough to explain it. Most people don't experience this as infrastructure. They experience it as moments. You open your phone, and it already feels like it knows what you're looking for. You scroll, and everything feels selected. Not random, not neutral, chosen. Your car gets declined, no explanation, just a result. You apply for something, and the answer comes back instantly. Approved, denied, but without explanation. In healthcare, decisions happen faster than they can be explained. Different outcomes, no visible reasoning. These aren't failures, they're patterns, indications that something is making decisions between you and the outcome. And it's not that the system is broken, it's that it's operating at a level you can't see. Decisions are being made faster than you can follow, and at scale, and at a scale you never meant to track. And when that happens, you don't just lose visibility, you lose the ability to question. And over time, that doesn't just create confusion, it creates distance between people and the systems they depend on. And that distance is where the trust breaks. So, how do you build trust in systems people don't fully understand? This is where public relation changes roles, not messaging, infrastructure. Because PR operates at the intersection of perception, risk, and accountability. Before something happens, while it's happening, and after it happens. You don't push messages. You align with how people already see the world. Understanding over complexity, consistency over reaction. Because confusion doesn't create curiosity, it creates resistance. And trust doesn't come from what you say, it comes from what proves itself under pressure. But are things moving too fast to rebuild trust again? Maybe, because the next disruption comes down to numbers. It starts with 0 and 1. Classical computers, your phone, your laptop, servers, run on bits. A bit is either 0 or 1. Everything we use today runs on that system. But quantum computing changes the roles. Instead of bits, it uses qubits, units of information that can be 0, 1, or both at the same time. That's superposition, a system existing in multiple states at once until it's measured. Think of it like this. A classical bit is a coin sitting still, heads or tails. Qubit is a coin spinning in the air, not one or the other, but both until it lands. That's where power comes from. Instead of checking one answer at a time, quantum systems explore many at once. And when those possibilities connect, they narrow in on answers faster than anything we've seen. But quantum systems are unstable. Qubits lose their state almost instantly. They require extreme conditions, and even then, they're prone to error. So the race isn't just about power, it's about control. Getting these systems to work consistently. But here's where this connects. Just as we're trying to rebuild trust, another shift is already underway. And this one doesn't change speed, it changes security. Everything protecting data today relies on the limits of classical computing, limits that quantum systems may not have, which means problems once thought were impossible may not stay that way. And that includes encryption. The systems protecting data today may not protect it tomorrow. And the risk isn't just future, it's already happening. Data is being collected, stored, waiting for the moment it can be unlocked. So the future won't be defined by the most advanced technology. It will be defined by the people who are willing to trust. Because we started with the internet, we could enter and leave. We logged in, we disconnected. Now we're not entering the system anymore. We're living inside it. And as technology moves from tools to systems to environments to decisions, the question isn't just what's possible, it's what people understand. Because trust isn't built on access, it's built on knowing how decisions are made. And in this environment, The organization that lead won't be the ones that say the most. They'll be the ones who make themselves understood when it matters most. Because the real challenge isn't building smarter systems, it's reducing the distance between what those systems do and what people understand. That distance is the trust gap, and the organization that closes it won't just shape perception, they'll define the future. So the question becomes, how do you rebuild trust in a system people don't fully understand? This is where Isabella Public Relations operates, not as messaging, as infrastructure, because the problem isn't information, it's interpretation. So the solution has to exist in 3 layers. First, translation, making systems understandable before people are forced to question them. Second, alignment, ensuring what people believe about a system matches what that system is actually doing across generations, across industries, across levels of understanding. And third, proactive control, building trust before something breaks, defining accountability early, explaining risk before it becomes fear, establishing confidence before pressure hits. Because once trust is lost, you are no longer explaining, you're defending. And the organization that understands this won't just communicate better, they'll operate differently. Because in this environment, trust isn't a message, it's a system. And public relations at its highest level is no longer about visibility. It is about reducing the distance between what systems do and what people understand, not to expand the trust gap, but to close it. Because the organizations that succeed in this era won't be the ones that say the most, but the ones that make themselves the easiest to understand when it matters most.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notifications, follow us, like, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.